The balance of power in the SEC Eastern Division hasn't been much of a balance. The seesaw has kind of squarely been tilted towards one side for a few years now, and that has been Athens, Georgia, and the Georgia Bulldogs. So now all of a sudden, I'm being told by a lot of you, I don't know where I stand yet because I think it's very poor business to make predictions on a football season in the middle of May, but prediction season nevertheless is about to be upon us. Now, you guys know how this works. I don't necessarily take part in it. I'm going to give you predictions later like anyone else does, but I'm not going to do it in May or June or probably even July or early August. But prediction season is so popular because prediction season is an all-reward, no-risk proposition. Everyone is happy to return to their July statements in December when they were right, knowing full well when they make the statement in July, no one cares if they were wrong because there are going to be so many wrong predictions that one doesn't stand out over the rest. And so everyone runs their mouth in July. And everyone this year, because there's nothing else going on, at least according to them, has been running their mouth in May. And so out of the mouths of many in our business and outside of our business has come this. There's a balance of power shift in the Eastern Division of the Southeastern Conference this year. And it's going from Athens, Georgia to Gainesville, Florida. Do we buy this? I know the reasons. You don't have to school me on the reasons, but there's a lot of Florida wins the East sentiment out there this year in my inbox and DMs and on Twitter and whatnot. So what's the case? And then I'm going to just walk you through this. I'm not taking a stance on this tonight, but I am going to walk you through sort of the way that I observe your line of thinking. Because it all really boils down to quarterback, and it boils down to schedule, and it boils down to coach, as far as I can tell in thumbing through the reasons that you're giving me. You have got Jamie Newman coming in at Georgia. That's a question mark. Offensive line's a question mark there. Outside of George Pickens, most of you view the wide receiver position as a question mark at Georgia. And now, on top of all that, of course, you've got Todd Monken coming in as offensive coordinator. You lose Spring. Who knows what's going to happen there? Also, Georgia's two cross-division opponents this year are at Alabama in Week 3 and, of course, Auburn. And because there's been all of this mess about COVID-19 and are we going to have spring ball? No, we're not. When's the season going to start on time? A lot of you aren't yet aware. A lot of you have not yet printed that SEC helmet grid schedule out that you normally do and pin it on your refrigerator. A lot of you aren't aware we got Georgia at Alabama in Week 3 this year, but yes, we do. So then you look on the other side and you see there's uncertainty at quarterback at Georgia. There isn't at Florida. We got Kyle Trask here. There is uncertainty with, for instance, the schedule that Georgia's got to play. Well, with Florida, they got Ole Miss from the West, and then, of course, they've got LSU, but is LSU down this year? And, hey, even if LSU's pretty good, they got to come to Gainesville. And there's this overwhelming sentiment that, again, I'm not really taking so much a stance on tonight. In any given year, I don't know what it's going to matter, but there's this overwhelming sentiment. And there always has been with Florida folks that if you get these rosters close, then game day coaching is superior at Florida. Therefore, we'll overtake Georgia. Just get us close. Just make it competitive. That's basically the sentiment. I think I've checked most of the boxes there as to what you guys are thinking. So there's an added concern here, and I really think that some of you guys hit on it, but the added concern and the one that's at the forefront of my mind when I look at Florida versus Georgia, I don't really care about the other stuff. That's more nuanced. That's more game by game. But this uncertainty with Georgia, really independent of anybody else in the conversation, this is the name of the game. This whole new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, and most of the time, guys, when you go get a new offensive coordinator by your choice, not because a guy left for greener pastures, and you bring in a grad transfer quarterback, typically you're looking to change something. I think Kirby Smart himself would agree and would admit, yeah, we're looking to change or adjust or evolve something. What is that something? Or here's a better way to ask it. What was that something going to be? And is it still the same something without spring? So you ask, what did you lose in spring? Well, really all you lost is 15 practices, but really what did you lose? You lost critical install time, and you lost a critical opportunity to mesh as a team, to gel as a team. That doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. But it's not just that. So now you enter into this whole Georgia-Florida balance of power nonsense. Not nonsense. I think it's nonsense because we're talking about it right now. But you enter into this conversation, and then you realize, Oh, you got the same offensive coordinator you had last year in Gainesville. You got the same defensive coordinator you had last year. Got the same quarterback, got the same head coach. So there's a lot of same from a team that's run off a couple of New Year's Six Bowl appearances and wins. And then you got a lot of question marks with a team that has been better, but these haven't been blowouts when these two have been on the field. They've been competitive both times. And so there's just a ton of shifting in Athens, and I understand all this. And here's the other thing that you have to remember. Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, whoever it is, when someone's winning a lot, no one outside of that fan base enjoys seeing dominance. It's not fun for anyone outside of you. Georgia fans, remove yourself from this conversation. No one who covers college football for a living and lives in St. Louis, Missouri, wants to log on and type out 1,500-word previews that consist of same old, enter, send, done, because that doesn't attract many eyeballs. So by default, you're already looking for confirmation bias, and the bias is, I want to see change. I want to find any way possible. I'm going to overturn every stone possible to find a reasonable path for Florida to win the East. I'm not saying it can't happen. It certainly could happen this year. Again, this is not a prediction show tonight. I'm just telling you that's why you see all this excitement and giddiness when these people are going on podcasts and writing in preview magazines and doing their 1,500, 2,000-word sort of preseason predictors online about who's going to win the East, and it's confirmation bias. But I look up and down the East, and this is kind of the way that I think in any division. I look, and here's what the first thing I want to know is. First thing I want to know is, how many elite units are there over here? In this case, the here is the SEC East. There's one. In this entire division right now, there's one I know I can count on. I think Florida's offense is going to be really good. Do I know they're going to be elite? I don't know that. I've heard some people suggest they could make this now until the end of time. Someone's going to suggest someone's going to do this LSU-type leap. This year two, got the same quarterback in the same system, got things figured out now. This Joe Burrow LSU-type leap. I think that's very unreasonable. It's unreasonable to expect from any team in any given year. Guess not impossible, but unreasonable. So I cannot count on Florida's offense to be elite. They may be. Maybe that's their ceiling. But Georgia's defense will be, and that's the only one I see over there right now. So when I'm starting in the next month or two, when I'm starting to develop my picture in my own little mental dark room, if you will, and the lights are slowly coming up, and I'm slowly starting to see the picture develop, the default I'm working off of is the one unit that's going to be the constant over here on this side of the SEC, and the one part, the one facet of any team that I know I can count on, I think I can count on at least, to show up 12 weeks is that Georgia defense. They're going to be insanely good. I don't even think some Georgia folks I talk to are aware of how good their defense is going to be this year. It's going to be the best defense in the country. Until someone proves me wrong, I'm working off the assumption Kirby Smart's got the best defense in the country this year. They are going to be good. They're going to be really good. And not only are they going to be good, they're going to be a really good hybrid version, maybe like Smart didn't have all the time at Alabama. They were either big or fast. They started that transition, but he's got athletes. You know, he's got athletes that they used to play at Jack linebacker, maybe edge rusher, that are athletic enough now to play a couple of different spots for him in the middle. That's just how athletic they are. Defensive back play on that team will be out of this world. Corner play, in particular, will be out of this world. And here's what we've learned. As of late in college football, here's what we've learned. If you've got a truly elite offense, if you've got the best offenses in the game, you will score on any defense. Unless you're turning the ball over a bunch inside the 5-yard line, you are going to score in that 28 to 34 point range minimum in a big game. That's what history has taught us. So I'm not telling you can't score on Georgia. I fully believe if that team in red and black were to make it to the playoffs this year, and they run up against an Ohio State or Clemson or whoever it may be, Alabama, those teams are going to be able to score on them. They're not hanging 60 plus. They're going to be able to score on them. Here's what I'm asking you. We're talking about Georgia, Florida here. Does Florida meet that minimum baseline? Like, do they get over that line in the sand sort of point that you got to be in to where you're good enough offensively where you're going to be able to score on anyone? Your answer may be yes. Apparently, a lot of your answers are yes, judging by my inbox. I may get there with you. I just don't know that I'm there right now. I'll tell you the game that, for obvious reasons, I think everyone has circled, and I'm no different than you in this camp. That game at Alabama for Georgia in week 3 is going to show you a lot. Because Alabama's going to be pretty good offensively this year. Alabama's got to change at quarterback, but they got two really good players at quarterback. They got a phenomenal offensive line this year. They got really good wideouts. They got a loaded running back stable. If Georgia goes into Tuscaloosa and Bama's struggling to score over 24 points, 28 points, if they're struggling to get in that range, Georgia's going to be able to do fine. And Georgia's defense is going to be able to beat whoever remains on their schedule in the regular season. They're going to be capable of doing that, and they're going to be capable of totally strangling you and taking over a game. Because that defense is going to be there early and often. Can't say the same about their offense, but then again, if you got a defense that is of that caliber, how many points you got to score? And how many points are you going to be able to score? So that's just my general, very initial take on the SEC East. You are certainly not going to turn on this program in May or June and hear me say, I've got predictions tonight for you. Not going to do that.